Hello and welcome back to Stones That Speak. Today, I had a little something to say about the conversation that transpired recently between John Vervaeke, Paul Vanderklay, and Sam, whose last name I don't know, but he's sort of big in the Bridges of Meaning Discord community and has his own YouTube channel. And he hosted this conversation between PVK and John Vervaeke, and I don't I don't have a lot to say about the whole thing. I found it very interesting. It was really cool to hear the ways in which John Vervaeke was trying to make Neoplatonism play with Christianity and how the Dialogos evolved in working between like what is Neoplatonism versus like how does it distinguish itself and in what sense is it embodied in other religions. I'm not going to go into like really any of that. It was a fun conversation. I'm gonna nitpick one little tiny piece because the one little tiny piece stuck in my craw, and so that's what I'm gonna be talking about. And if you hear me being critical about like 20 seconds of a line of dialogue from John Vervaeke, hopefully you will understand that this is not the only thing I think about John Vervaeke and that all I can do is be critical. But I'm being critical here. So I'm gonna play you a snippet from this conversation, and then I'm gonna talk about it. All right, here we go.
But we can't go back to the old way, because the old way we did that is, well, the structure of my experience and the structure of the cosmos are just identical. We're at the center and everything's going around. Like that doesn't work anymore. We have to, but that doesn't mean we can't recover or inventio, which I think we're doing, a new model of how that conformity works. The fact that the old...
Okay. Let's get rid of this window. Because I'm done with that, I think, anyway. I'm done like, that was the whole... The thing that he said where I was like, wait, no. That's not right. Let me see if I can formulate how I want to say this. So John Vervaeke's statement here is that we cannot live in a cosmos with the assumption that the cosmos is conformed to our perception of the cosmos. So, for example, in years past, perhaps, like ancient times, you would have generally had the idea of the world as a flat-ish surface, all right? And then there is the sky, which is a dome overhead. And this is how you experience the world. And the modern argument against that would say, yes, but of course now we know that you can go up into a spaceship. And if you go up into a spaceship, now you can look down and you can see that the Earth is not in fact flat, and there is no dome over it, and there aren't any turtles pulling the sun through the sky, and it's not in a chariot. And so here we are, we understand now that this is the real shape of the universe, and that old shape of the universe was wrong. No. This is what I have to say about that. No. No, 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 no. I have some issues here. And I'm going to start with a little object lesson. I brought this out from inside my house in the kitchen. This is a little cookbook that was given to me and my wife on the anniversary, or the occasion, rather, of our wedding. For those of you who want to tell us a happy anniversary. We were married in 2008, and in here is a recipe for Dad's whole wheat pancakes. Doesn't like the green screen that much. It's yellowed. The reason that it doesn't like the green screen is because I've had this book open to this page so many times, because this is basically like one of 3 recipes I make out of this book. Our whole family came together and gave us recipes to make, and I make like 3 of them. I really was looking through this today thinking I should make more of these because they're not half bad. But in this recipe, it calls for an egg. And the second thing that is in the recipe is it calls for 1 cup of flour. Now it specifies whole wheat flour. I ain't ever used whole wheat flour for this. in years, okay? Maybe very at the very beginning. I found out you can use white flour and I ain't looked back. It's better. It tastes better. I'm a heathen. What can I say? But it calls for a cup of flour. Now suppose that I had received this book back in 2008 and it has a recipe for pancakes. And it says you can make these pancakes and you need a cup of flour. Alright? And then suppose later on sometime down the road I go to college and I study molecular biology, right? And I'm like looking at different things through a microscope and understanding that they're made out of chemicals, and I find out about flour and I say, oh my goodness, flour. Did you know? I didn't know when I first read this book that flour is just carbon and oxygen and hydrogen atoms sort of stuck together in weird and interesting ways. And yeah. Now to understand, I didn't know that flour was carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen when I read this book the first time. All right? For the sake of this illustration, let's say that. All right? When I first read the book about how to make pancakes, didn't understand that there were molecules of carbohydrates that were stuck together in various ways with some other random chemicals mixed in because it's an organic compound, and that was what flour was made of. Supposing that I then take this new knowledge, which is true knowledge about the physical world, and say, now I have to leave behind this recipe book. Because this recipe book talks about flour. And now I understand that that's not how the universe is. Because I've looked at flour and it turns out that there is just these little molecules, and it lays itself out as these molecules, and like these are made out of atoms, and so the true universe doesn't actually contain flour. And so this book, worthless. Can't use it anymore. Dad and Mom were stupid. They said there was flour. There ain't no flour. The professor at college told me about carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and now I understand the truth. Flour does not exist. Now, hopefully everyone is sitting at home saying, Albert, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You can still go get a bag of flour at the grocery store and measure it out with a measuring cup and put it in your pancake mix and make pancakes, and then you'll have pancakes. The fact that you have discovered something new about this substance, which you interact with at one level as flour, does not negate the fact that you can still, at that level, interact with it as flour. Now, that's fine. Everybody's cool with that. But then we go to the cosmos, and we say, oh, I look up at the sky, and it just seems like a dome. And I look around me at the Earth, and it just kind of seems flat, but I know. Because I've gone to school. I've seen diagrams of the solar system. That's not true. There isn't a dome over me. Some morons back in the day believed that. And they wrote it down, and I'm supposed to... So, metaphorically, it may be true that there's a dome over us. But, like, really we know that it's all just space. And Earth is this tiny speck. It's insignificant. It doesn't matter. Okay? That is how the majority of people think. That's how I spent a reasonable amount of my time and in my life thinking, until I fortunately started reading and thinking deeper, and I thought, wait a minute. Because here's the problem. Let's say that you go up to the spaceship, and now you can look down on the globe, and when you're in the spaceship, you can see a spherical Earth. For whom is the Earth spherical? It's the same person, not the same individual, right? Because I've never been in a spaceship, okay? But it's the same idea of consciousness that is interpreting the Earth as a big sphere as it was that was interpreting the Earth as a flat disk with a dome over it. You haven't gotten away from the human at the center of the universe. You just moved the human. You took the human from one place and you said this is the center of the Earth because there's humans there. And then you took the human up in your spaceship, and now you're in a spaceship, and you can look down and you can say, aha, now I understand. That wasn't the center of the Earth. Because I'm the center of the Earth as the human standing up in the spaceship, and now the center of the Earth has moved. Guess what? Your cosmology hasn't changed. Your cosmology still has you at the center of the universe. Guess which galaxy is the most important galaxy that you can learn about? It's not Andromeda. Not even sure Andromeda is a galaxy. I think it might be. All right. It's not one of the three dots in Orion's belt, which are all galaxies, by the way. Great little thing. All those stars are actually a compact collection of lots and lots of stars if you zoom in close enough. But no, it's not those. It's the Milky Way. Do you know why we have more facts about the Milky Way than we have about other galaxies? It's because it's the most important galaxy. Do you know why it's the most important galaxy? Because we in it. Alright? I somewhat understand what John is saying here, but I really, really think it's a mistake to look at the world as if it is not conforming to you. Alright? The person for whom the flower is made out of molecules and atoms and quantum foam, when I am looking through a microscope, is still me. Alright? It's still me observing reality and saying, I see reality lay itself out this way. It passes into my eyes, into my mind, through my ears and my understanding and all of the ways that I can sort of pick up knowledge, and I assemble it together and I say, for me, this is how the world is laying itself out at this level of resolution. If I look very closely at my computer keyboard, I could come to the assumption that the letter R is the only thing on the computer keyboard. If I get a microscope, right, or even a magnifying glass, a strong magnifying glass, I can look close enough where the only thing I can see of the keyboard is the letter R, and the letter R will fill my perception. And when I am looking that closely at the keyboard, that will be the real keyboard, just the letter R. And if I zoom in closer and I just see plastic molecules, that will also be the real keyboard. Am I completely ripping off D.E. Harding and the hierarchy of heaven and earth with this idea? Yes, I am. I'm 100% ripping off D.E. Harding. I highly recommend that everybody check out his book. Because it helped me to understand that you can't get away from perception. The cosmos isn't a cosmos without somebody looking at it. I recently read, I listened to an audiobook because I'm an incredibly lazy slob. I listened to an audiobook called The Human Cosmos, alright? And the first chapter of this book talks about the cave paintings in France, right? Which most people think of as being animals. Right? You go into this cave, you're looking up at a dome, and there's all these animals around you. Except the proposition that's laid out in this book, and I am not an expert on this, okay? So I don't want to pass this off as being the truth, but it got me all excited. So I'm gonna, for the purposes of this video, this is the truth. All right, at me if you have other thoughts. But the proposition of this book is that those aren't just random animals, all right, that they saw in the world, right? These are representations of the stars, of constellations, all right? So the people in this ancient society, they would look up at the sky, they would see this dome that twirled over them every night, And then they would go down into a smaller dome and recreate this dome in miniature. And they would look up at that and they would see the same things, right? Because that's how experience works. And even this was fascinating reading this book. They also talked about very early houses, that they would even have these sort of very super early primitive houses were built in this dome shape out of earth, and you would have to crawl from room to room through these very low passages, right? So you're squeezing yourself out through a small passage into a dome, right, on which is the night sky now painted. Because what were they doing? What were they doing when you had to go down through a small passage and squeeze your way through to squeeze out into the dome that covers the world and has the spirits above and you below? They were recreating the entire human existence, all right? Because what do? When you come into the world, you're squeezed through a very small tunnel, and you come out at the end of this very tight tunnel into the wide world with the stars above and the earth beneath, and you can look up and you can see these spirits in the sky twirling around on their nightly journey. The ancient people understood that these things scaled, right? The ancient Norse myth, right, of where did the sky come from? It was the skull of a dead giant. When you looked up at the night sky as an ancient Norse person, right, you saw something that was the inside of a head. Because that's how reality works. It's all the inside of a head. It's real out there, but it's also the inside of a head. And by the way, I love the fact the Greeks are off on their philosophical bent, right? Talking about how the heavens are perfect and there must be perfect circles up there because the gods are perfect and they represent these perfect things. And of course, modern science later on realizes, wait a minute, it's not so perfect up there. Guess what? The North legends, they already had the sky as the part of the process of death. You look up there and you see something dead as part of the decaying, fallen world. They got that. The Greeks forgot it. They got way up in their highfalutin Platonism and they said, well, we understand. So I just really wanted to push back on this idea. All right? The flower is real. The fact that you can look in a microscope and see tiny little pieces of flour that it is made out of, and go down even further with an electron microscope and see molecules and atoms that the flour is made of, does not negate the existence of the flower. All right? The fact that you can travel up into a spaceship and observe the Earth as a sphere does not negate the fact that you stand on the Earth as a disk and observe it as a flat surface with a dome over it. These are both real. You experience them. Okay? Now, if you say, because I experience the Earth as a flat surface and there's a dome, and therefore I can't take a spaceship up, I can't experience things in any other way. If I were to go and if I were to shoot myself up in the air somehow with a bird, there is no way I would see anything other than a circle. Then you're having a problem, right? You're saying that this worldview can't change, but you understand that you can take your consciousness to different places. You can project your consciousness to different places. I don't have to take a spaceship to imagine the Earth as a sphere. All right? I can just... There I am. I'm thinking of it right now. I'm holding that idea in my head, but I also step outside. Go step outside, okay? Look at the giant dome over you. It's there. It's been there every single day of your life. Don't throw it away because you read about a spaceship one time. You know what? Do you know what the problem with the Earth as a sphere is? When you go to see it that way, there ain't no oxygen up there. Okay? You got to take your oxygen with you. Your place where you get to the real truth will kill you. The flat Earth and the dome over the Earth are not metaphorically true. Okay? They are experientially true in the same way that the circular Earth that goes around the Earth is also experientially true for those of you who can cast your consciousness into the frame where you can look down on a solar system that has planets going around like this. You can't experience that solar system firsthand. You have to do it up here. You don't ever get outside of the skull of the giant. You are not reinventing anything. Just because you have a spaceship and you can see that the stars in the belt of Orion aren't really stars. When you look up at Orion, you see the stars. They don't stop being stars for you because you understand that you could look at them more closely and see a galaxy. This is the real world. This is the confusion that we're in, where we think that one of these perspectives is the true one and we can leave the other ones behind. That's not how it works. You don't get to leave the other perspectives behind. I feel like I'm repeating myself now, so I'm going to stop. I'm glad I got this out. It was like burning a hole up in my stomach, right? I just needed to talk to somebody about this. And so for the 3 people who will watch this, I thank you. I appreciate you. I hope that this was challenging and not stupid. I aim not to be stupid, but I understand that I am ignorant of many things, and so I encourage you to leave a comment. Let me know if you had some serious disagreements or some things you wanted me to say differently, or things you think I should know about that I should look into more. I would really appreciate that, and I will see you guys next time with another one. Take care.